Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. My name's Dusty, as always, joined today by Sam Cottle from Tampa, Florida. YouTube channel is Living in Tampa FL. I asked him before we hit record how his belongings were after the hurricane. If you're listening to this kind of current, there was a hurricane that came through and wiped out a lot in Tampa and that region, in that area, and we're certainly there in our thoughts and prayers. So he said his main home is okay, but he has another that actually had some flooding, so we'll definitely, hopefully you can get that taken care of soon. But let me tell you a little bit about Sam. Sam started his Living in Tampa YouTube channel shortly after moving to Tampa and getting into real estate in 2020. That's a theme here on the podcast. People, for some reason, get started on YouTube around that 2019, 2020 mark. Yeah. They must have had some time on their hands. His YouTube channel has provided over $1.5 million in real estate commissions in 4 years alone, which is awesome. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dusty. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So give me the premise of, it's 2020, you got a little extra time, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to do this YouTube thing. Give me the origin story of the channel and kind of how it came to happen.
So yeah, in 2020, a lot of stuff was going on, right? Mm-hmm. And we decided to move from Colorado to Florida to be closer to my wife's family. And I got into real estate at that time and was kind of tried everything right off the bat. Tried everything horribly: direct mail, Facebook ads, open houses, door knocking, whatever. I tried it all very half-hearted, and was trying to find like some sustainable way for me to get leads that I also kind of enjoyed. And I heard on a podcast these guys talking about their YouTube channel that talked about pros and cons and cost of living and stuff like that. And I just decided, I reached out to them and I was like, hey, can I copy you? Like I felt like there was some kind of etiquette I needed to follow there. They're actually like business partners of mine now, but I just, took the ball and ran with it.
Now, explain to the audience how this works. You make a video about a specific area in Tampa, or maybe a restaurant or a hot spot. Maybe you even do like a overview of a house that you've listed or something of that nature. Explain in detail how this, I guess you would call it a funnel, works from your YouTube channel to your real estate business.
Absolutely. So first, I want to go further up the funnel. I like to call it going further upstream. So if somebody is like interested in a restaurant, they probably already have a realtor. So what did they search for? The 10 searches before that, they looked for best restaurants in a specific area. Then they looked at schools in that area. So I'm kind of reverse engineering this, going all the way back to, they typed in, should I move to Tampa? Then what's the difference between Tampa and St. Petersburg? So it's answering those further up questions and providing a ton of value really early in someone's search and education.
How are you finding these questions? Like, how are you, the realtor and the creator, thinking? I mean, do you have like a list of questions that you hear your clients that you're actively working with that they're asking? Is that kind of how you're creating that list?
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm doing now. But my first closing from YouTube was my third closing ever. So I didn't have clients that were asking me questions, so I didn't know. So I was, using keywords everywhere and TubeBuddy and vidIQ and planning out my next 20, 30 videos and then just executing those videos, kind of building this library that answers broad questions about moving. Also, I had just moved across the country. I had some of those questions too.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. So now that you've got this thing started and you've decided how it's going to be implemented and kind of work in the funnel in your business, what was next as far as, did you have any experience as a creative? Do you go and reach out to people, or what was your process like?
Sure. So the easiest part for me was the camera, because I have done quite a bit of like live production stuff and have a lot of experience in that. And some post-production, but overall, that part of it was not intimidating. Actually getting in front of the camera and looking down the lens and like trying to sound like I knew what I was talking about was the scariest part.
Right.
But yeah, you just gotta swallow it one pill at a time.
Yeah, and how did you get better at that? What were some things that you implemented to help improve, I guess, not necessarily your on-camera presence, but your confidence, knowing that you know what you're talking about, and people who are going to come to you from this video will get what they're looking for?
Yeah, so much of that is, it takes a long time to feel like, no, I'm actually skilled at this. People are actually getting value from this. it was probably a year and a half in. I made a couple $100,000 already from doing this, and I was still trying to piece it together. Like, what am I actually like helping people with here? And I started to just build out some kind of frameworks. So very basically, like, I want to demonstrate that I can be trusted. Like, fundamentally, I feel like I can be trusted by these people. If they reach out to me, I'm not going to push them in the wrong direction. Secondly, I have their best interest in mind. Like, if they don't want to do something, I don't want them to do it. And then lastly, just starting to demonstrate that we do have clients reaching out. People do call, and this is how we help them, and kind of showing how that process looks. And then once I kind of built some frameworks around that, I started to feel way more confident because it kind of made sense for my brain.
Let's get technical then for a minute. How are these people getting to you? Once they watch the video, what are the best practices? And this just isn't for real estate either. This is for anyone looking to use YouTube as a step in their funnel or a piece of their business. How are you capturing? Give me exactly, and maybe even things that you've learned, like I tried this, it didn't work very well. Give it, again, just in full detail of how you're capturing these people and landing them as your clients.
Yeah, so I'll share kind of how kind of the evolution of that as well. So it started with just a basic call to action. We are local realtors. We want a chance to earn your business. Call, text, or email anytime. I'm actually the one that will text you back. Those come right to my phone. That kind of call to action, the beginning and the end of the video. Next, and that worked for a long time. But organic has an ebb and flow to it. If you're getting leads from an organic source, it has a very unnatural ebb and flow. It's not that predictable.
No.
And now we're doing a lot of other things. Now we have people that have reached out that are in our database that didn't do anything yet, right? So we still engage with those on our back end, but we're offering a lot more, lead magnets and guides and easier ways to enter. So I actually just shot a video yesterday. So this is a very early change I'm making right now. And this was like the ultimate guide to buying new construction in Tampa. And it's a 30-minute video, and it's very comprehensive. And there's a guide, a downloadable guide that matches the video and is even more comprehensive. So I call to action to call me, but then 3 or 4 calls to action in the video to download the guide.
Right. And are you putting your phone number like in the video, like as a lower third? You're saying the phone number. You're also having a link in the description that get them to a landing page on your said website that can then capture their email address. You're basically trying to get them in any way you can in order to contact them.
Absolutely. But if they call and say, Sam, can you help me buy a house? It's like, yeah, here we go. Of course, they can go. There's links to the website. They can fill out a form. They can chat directly to our database on the website. There's a lot of different ways. But the best leads call.
Yeah. And when someone calls you, do you ask them at some point during that call, did you come from my YouTube video, or will they be forthgiving with that information and say, hey, I just watched your video on done it in Florida is perfect for you, and I'm thinking about living there, or I just got a job, I'm getting relocated. Like, are these people informing you that they're coming from the channel?
Oh, yeah. And oftentimes they're saying, I've been watching your videos for 3 years.
As they're in preparation for moving.
Absolutely. Actually, it's almost 30% of my views are from the TV YouTube app.
So it's probably a husband and wife.
It is, yeah.
At home, they're like, hey, let's watch some of this stuff here. People are watching YouTube like television anyways now, so it's cool to hear you say that.
And especially if they're thinking like, we need to figure out where we're going to move and live forever. Like, it's a big thing. If you can provide a lot of education and a little bit of entertainment around that, like, you can really solve a problem.
I know a lot of people in the real estate industry, not just here locally, here in Gainesville, close to Atlanta, Georgia, where I live, but just that I've spoken with. I've chatted with a lot of very large real estate creators on the podcast. And one of the things that they often tell me is that you don't have to have a ton of views for this to be fruitful.
Yeah.
Because you just need the right views. And I think that is so pertinent to a lot of YouTube nowadays. If you know your target audience and your niche, you can have a video with a few thousand views, and this, Sam, you could, make 3 sales from that video, and that's very lucrative. Can you speak on just the numbers and trying not to get too far ahead of yourself and setting realistic expectations of what you're trying to accomplish on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, I teach a lot of agents how to build these channels, and I honestly think the sweet spot is between like 4,000 and 6,000 subscribers. If you're getting 10 to 12,000 views a month, like you can build a pretty productive business off of that. Now we're 13,000 subscribers. We're average about 20,000 views a month. We publish 4 videos a month. We don't publish a whole lot of content, but you're just converting them to a very high ticket item that they're actually looking for. You're not trying to sell them on it. You're trying to sell them on you, and then they happen to want this very high ticket item that you can help them get.
Yeah, and I think that's the power of YouTube, is that it's visual. Obviously, they can see the locations. They can also get a good view of who you are and your personality as you're portraying yourself on camera. Obviously, let's talk about the technical side of YouTube then. What is something that you wish you would have known sooner? Now that you've done this since 2020, we're now late 2024, going into the new year here in 2025. So you're about 5 years in. What is something that you look back thinking, man, Sam, if I just could have done that sooner, or I wish I would have known this sooner, the channel could have taken off and been even better producing?
Yeah, I think filling some of that gap of local content, both on YouTube and Instagram. I know some of my friends that have both of those going around very similar topics, and they kind of have this like 1-2 punch. Like my friend Kyle Talbot in Kansas City is moving to Kansas City on YouTube and Instagram. He's posting a ton on Instagram, and it creates this easier way for people to reach you. Yeah, somebody might not want to like write down your phone number and then text you, or people send long emails. People will tell me their salary, their story, everything in an email. That's a big task for them to do. But if they just go follow you on Instagram, and then they could just send you a DM after they've like liked a couple things, it's an easier entry point. So looking back, I wish I would have done both.
And so you're basically saying that with the YouTube channel in tandem with Instagram or X or Twitter, whatever you decide to use, it could be TikTok. I mean, whatever you want to use, right?
Yeah.
I think that for your industry, I believe that Instagram and YouTube are probably the top two because of just the nature of those platforms. But giving them that button of it feels also a lot more personal than an email that's very formal, where you're just emailing. And like you said, you're probably stating a lot of the facts and things you think that your real estate agent needs to know. Whereas if you're on Instagram, they just shoot you a DM and say, hey, Sam, my name is Bob and Sandra. We're looking for a house in Tampa, and we just saw your video on the, it's very, like you said, it's a good conversation starter, and you probably get more people in the door quicker.
Yeah. Well, and they could also comment on posts before, and I'm commenting back, like that kind of engagement. And people just are a little more comfortable sending that DM, probably different age categories, than just sending a long email to an info email address, or just texting some random number and be like, is this Sam from YouTube?
Are there any tips you can give about shooting video? Because I have watched a handful of your videos in preparation for this, and they're very well done, very high quality. What's kind of the process of your video shooting? Because you are shooting video a lot of times on location, not necessarily in your studio. So talk about the whole process of how you record and film your videos, even from all the way up to like publishing and what you do after you publish.
Sure. I, first of all, keep a big list of video ideas and kind of basic outlines so that
Where do you keep that? Where do you keep your list?
Yeah, all that's in Notion. And it's kind of like Kanban board style, like a Trello board, based on how developed the idea is. Sometimes, I'm writing stuff on a note card. If I'm like going out real quick, I'm like, I had this idea. Let's write down 5 points I want to say. I'm very comfortable filling it in with stories, filling it in with details that I know or kind of know, and also kind of qualifying those kind of things. I'm very comfortable with that. But I'm often using a full frame camera, that one right back there. It's a Sony A7C, and I'm putting it on a tripod, usually using a shotgun mic. The bugs are too loud outside right now, so I've been using a lapel mic. I just started using a camera operator, and we use a gimbal for that. It creates a lot more of a dynamic video where we can have multiple locations and movement and some of those things. But it's still just not a cinematic video. I want enough behind me to where they can tell where I am, but I also want enough behind me to where I can interact with what's behind me. And because that shows what I'm like, and it shows like kind of how I'm going to act with them. If there's been times where I was filming in a neighborhood and somebody stops and they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I leave a lot of that in the video because I want my potential clients to see, like, I'm nice to strangers.
I love that. Are you doing this all by yourself? I know you said you have camera operator, things like that. I mean, people think when they hear this interview, well, I'm sure he's got like a professional, videographer, someone helping him with his audio. Do you do this basically? Is it a one-man show, or is your family? How does that work?
So I've shot about 300 videos, and 4 of those have been with the help of a camera operator. So that's very recent. I've done it all myself. I edited my first 100 before I hired an editor.
So you have hired an editor?
Yes.
Okay, so talk about pros and cons there, how you found the editor, pricing, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my editor sent me a cold email.
Love it.
Obviously Indian, and she wrote a little something about herself in the email. I grew up in a family of artists. My mom's a poet, and these are the kind of things I like to do. And I just sent her my Calendly link, and she scheduled a call. Then once I got on the call, I'm like, oh, this is like a pretty easy connection. Also, she like really flattered me. She's like, I like that you kind of do some Casey Neistat like stuff. And I'm like, oh man, words to my heart. So
I love it.
She knew the button to push. Initially, I was paying her $100 a video. I'm paying her a little bit more now. I think we're at $125 a video, and we've moved to a little bit more of a retainer model because my videos aren't predictable lengths. So I pay her $850 a month for 4 videos, but they're between 10 minutes and 35 minutes now instead of between 8 and 12 minutes.
And how do you manage the media between you and her?
Yeah. So that's also in Notion, a mix of Notion and Dropbox. So I'll upload all the A-roll into Dropbox, and I'll copy that Dropbox link and then create a card on our content calendar in Notion. Then that tags her, it sets a deadline. There's a place for me to like add any notes about other B-roll. And then we have a big B-roll catalog of everything I've captured. And it's very well organized, and she knows it pretty well at this point. She's edited over 100 videos for me.
So you go shoot yourself. You have the camera operator now, but that was a recent addition. You get all the footage. You put it on a hard drive. You then upload it, send it to your editor. And then once she sends you go back and forth, I assume. And once she sends you and you kind of land on the final video, how does everything happen from here? When you upload, are you doing anything as far as, are you cutting it up into YouTube Shorts? Are you then repurposing on Instagram? Like, what are your next steps of the process?
Sure. So after she's done with version 1, she sends me Frame.io link to review. I review that, and we've worked together long enough now to where after that, she uploads it to YouTube for me as unlisted. So she makes the changes I request, and she uploads it. Then I go in and make the thumbnail and write the description. Then it's up.
How do you make your thumbnails? What's your strategy right now?
My strategy is very face prominent and recognizable background prominent. I'm a fan of specific YouTubers, and I'm a fan of the way that they've built their brands, especially someone like Marquez Brownlee.
Yeah.
His thumbnails and titles are just never clickbait. Hey, this is what the video is, and I like that for my content as well because I want it to have a really long shelf life. I don't want to have to go back and change everything. Hey, no, the question that this video is answering is Dunedin the right place for you? It's answering that question today, and it's answering that question 2 years from now. So I don't want to feel like I don't want to make those so dynamic.
You mentioned shelf life, and I think it's one of the best things that YouTube has going for it is the evergreen nature of the content.
Absolutely.
Of that, you made a video over 3 years ago that's titled Most Recommended Areas to Live in Tampa, Florida. And I was looking just through some tools that I have last night. That's still gaining you a good bit of views and traction. And I want people to understand that this is not just for real estate. This is for any business model and for just growing a brand on YouTube in general, that if you put out that piece of content, that it will work for you for a long time if you do it properly. So speak on things that you may do to make sure that you're optimizing and understanding as you upload that this video is going to be seen in 2025, 2026 possibly, and you don't need a lot of views. For you, it could be just that one view 2 years from now that gets you that big client that's buying that beach property in Tampa, right? So explain that to us.
It's just answering the question. Like, people have questions, and then presenting that kind of question in the video. Hey, we get asked about this area a lot. Let me show you why people love this area. It's just not going to change. Like, it's a basic question. It's like not what can you get for $400,000. Like, when we include numbers, when we include prices, population, popularity, like those kind of things are just going to change. And so there's ways to be vague about it. I mean, even in that video about Dunedin, I mentioned our clients that are shopping here are usually looking for a house like this and this price range. Yeah, there's going to be elements of it that are not going to be evergreen, and people will comment 2 years later, you need to update this video, and that's fine. I want that engagement. But the way I think of it is building a library of videos. I want somebody to like go into the library and pull a book off, still get some useful information out of it. I don't want to just be handing out the newspapers at the door.
That's powerful, and I think that more people should have that thought process. And I love to hear you talk about that. Let's talk about now the monetization methods, because a lot of people on YouTube, you're either monetizing from the partner program through ad revenue, they got merch, but for you and your business, I assume it's a little bit of both, right? Where you do have the partner program, but because of your view count, you're not making bank there, but where you're making the majority of your money is through clientele. So can you just give me, like, on average, like where you're at now in late 2024, like what type of business this has brought you monetarily?
Sure. So yeah, through AdSense, I've made about $300 a month for the past 3 years.
Consistent, yeah.
Yeah. Now, most people pay for marketing, so it's nice to get paid for your marketing. And I have partners that offset all of my expenses related to this as well, that pay for my editor, that pay for other things. And those are, typically tangential partners, lenders, title companies, things like that. Then this year so far in 2024, so this is year 3.5 to 4.5 essentially of the YouTube channel, because we started at kind of an odd time. But we're looking at about $500,000 in revenue so far this year.
Yeah.
And it's just me and one partner.
Right. And when you say revenue, you mean just as far as not necessarily like the amount of money you're moving like in real estate, but like that's revenue.
That's
Yeah. And that's just what I want.
It's pretty close to profit.
Right. Because
we're at about a 93-7 like ratio.
Split.
So a lot of it's profit.
Right. And that is, what would you say the percentage of that is coming from the YouTube channel or the marketing that you're doing through the channel?
Yeah, so if that's $500,000, probably 20,000 of it didn't come through YouTube.
So the majority of it is what you're saying, right? So you're
even when it's more traditional, say we call an expired listing, we're leveraging the YouTube channel.
Right.
Hey, we know your listing just expired. You're probably getting a ton of calls. Can we send over our YouTube channel? You can just get to know us a little bit.
Yeah.
Then we're calling back the next day. Hey, did you watch the videos? Maybe they didn't, but they like that we didn't just ask for their business right away, and we obviously have some kind of brand presence, and they can like look into us a little bit more.
It gives you that entry point where you're not having to be bombarding them and using those stupid text messaging apps where you're basically getting paid just a little bit of money to market your business that's actually making you the income, right?
Yeah.
So you're using this free platform to do all of this and build your catalog, per se, of all of the information that you have that people don't even have to really discover. They can contact you via another outlet, and then you do what you just said. You say, hey, yeah, if you're interested in that, I've got a 30-minute like monologue in my video about this. Just watch it. You don't have to talk to me, and then get back to me if you're interested, right?
You're right. And then we can develop evergreen assets like about a specific neighborhood, and then we can market more traditionally to that neighborhood, and then enhance that marketing with this specific evergreen video that we have on the YouTube channel.
Yeah. I just want people to understand the power of this and just how relevant it is in 2024, that it's not real estate alone. It's any business. I was talking to a construction person a couple of months ago. He hired me to do some coaching for him on the YouTube channel. And he told me, he said, hey, is this something that I can do? We got him set up. He's now landed like 4 huge projects, one of them a government project, and it came from the YouTube channel. And he's just blown away. He'll email me. He'll send me a text message. He'll say, Dusty, I don't understand. Why haven't I been doing? He's like in his mid-50s. And I told him, I'm like, listen, and the thing about his business is that he's not even in front of the camera. He hired someone to basically be in front of the camera for him because he's like, I don't want to get in front of the camera. He's some old school construction guy. And so it's the end of the day, you got to understand the power and how to utilize all this. So let's kind of package this up a little bit. What are some just general YouTube tips and pointers that you've learned from either failure or successes that you can just give, and you can just rattle them off, and then we can talk about them one by one, of just people listening to this that can help them with their channels?
I listened to your interview with Tyler Caudle, and I've been following him for a few years, and a lot of it was similar to him. It's like, you just got to start. You can build your list of your first few videos really easily, and you need to make those and not really look up for a while. You've got to kind of get a head start on your library.
When you say don't look up, what do you mean by that? Like,
I mean,
explain.
Not really question what you're doing, not really giving analytics that much of a vote in anything yet, not really giving like reach outs that much of a vote in any of it as either. Like, just not looking for the outcome yet. It's all about the input at that point.
That's what people don't understand, though, Sam, is that so many people have and I've seen it. There's so many dead channels on YouTube that are very similar to living in Tampa, Florida, what you did.
Oh, yeah.
The difference is that you persevered through what I call, I mean, you can call it a dead zone, whatever you want to call it. Give it some unique name. But like you said, focus on the input, and the output's going to come, right? I mean, I do tutorial videos on technology, and I could give a rip how many views my videos get when I upload them. I'm optimizing for that video, helping people out for the next 5, 7, 10 years, as long as that software doesn't change, and it's going to be bringing me value in multiple different ways. So I love that you mentioned that. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just think it's important to understand that the input is the important thing starting off, and then if you can get through the doldrums there, that's powerful.
That's the only important part, and that's in life in general. Like, you have kids. I have little kids. Like, you can't make them be a certain way. You have these inputs you get to put in, and you choose how consistent those inputs are. How consistent those inputs are often leads to a certain kind of outcome.
How were you able to not try to get the dopamine hit of the analytic app, or, man, I've uploaded 4 videos and crickets, there's no one calling? What helped you persevere through that?
I've read back through some old journals recently, and I journaled a lot back then because I didn't have a lot of business. So I was kind of processing.
You had time to journal. That's fantastic.
It was scary. It was hard. Like, it's not, everybody's jealous of the outcome. Nobody's jealous of the journey.
Because
like,
they don't want to do it.
Yeah. The journey's not easy. Like, that's the misconception, is that, I closed a couple of deals, but there were times where I did get that dopamine hit. Honestly, when I uploaded my first video and it got a view, I was like, what in the world? A stranger watched my video and I didn't even tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
That felt so satisfying.
It's important to break it down into small milestones like that. My dad and I were talking just a couple of days ago. We were traveling on a family trip this past weekend for fall break for my kids, and we were in a location, and he told me, he was like, man, I remember when you called me. And I did. I called him, and I told him, I said, I just made, it was like, I don't know, over double digits in that day on my YouTube channel. So it was like $10 and a few cents. And he said he remembers the conversation. He said, I told him, I said, and I didn't do anything today. I didn't do a YouTube video today. It was something that I had uploaded, and made money today. And it's interesting that you're going to get those little small incremental things. I mean, I have a family now. I couldn't live off $10 a day. That's not how this works. But knowing that I can look at these milestones of, oh, I got a view on my video. Oh, I now have 100 subscribers. Oh, I now have 125. For everyone's journey, it's going to take a different duration to get there. It's just, are you willing to put in the work when no one's there, no one's watching, and you're uploading? I mean, people all the time. I had a guy tell me the other day, he's like, I started a newsletter, and then like 2 months later, I quit it, and then I started back. You're never going to grow a YouTube channel by uploading 4 videos in January and then, don't upload again until April. You've got to be consistent. Can you speak on the consistency aspect of it and just how almost like monotonous it has to be?
you have to get kind of obsessed with it. And I did. I kind of, and quickly I stopped learning from realtors, and I'm like consuming everything that Colin and Samir say and buying Ali Abdal's course. And like, I'm going like, how do I build a community? How do I build this thing? Because like top of the funnel, I need the views and the engagement to create the bottom of the funnel, the reach out.
Yeah.
So I became just more obsessed with how do I tell stories? How do I engage on this platform in a way that like people actually enjoy and engage with, and not just think I'm making like SEO content, like clickbait kind of SEO content. That's not what I want to make.
No. You want to make stuff that relates to people who are trying to move to the area that you're, yeah.
So let me add one more thing to the list of like things that I want people to take away. Like you have the stories that you could tell, and presenting just a basic story in a video, even if it's the construction video. And I honestly think that old guy should be in the videos. People would probably love him.
They'd love him. He's hilarious.
Yeah, they would love that. They would build their own little like tokens they expect from him, like little quirks he has. People love that kind of stuff.
They do.
But that video you mentioned, the best places to live or something, which realtors like don't even want to make that video because they think they can't give their opinion. But I just set up a basic premise. Hey, people reach out to us all the time. These are the 8 areas they're most interested in. I just said why they might be interested in those 8 areas.
Yeah. And also in your case, if I'm doing this, you got to be smart about it. You got to talk about what matters to people that you're trying to reach. What matters to your niche? What matters to people moving is oftentimes the weather, the education system, the safety aspect. I mean, be smart about this. And this is just for real estate. If you're in technology, then you do the same thing and you figure out what the things that matter are. For me, I do YouTube education. I help people launch podcasts. I know what matters. I know the things they're trying to get out of launching a podcast. So it's important to understand all of the aspects of who your audience is. And as we go into this new age, modern YouTube, whatever you want to call it, target audience and understanding your niche is going to be more important than ever. Would you not agree?
Absolutely. And especially if you can target geographically, you have an advantage.
You do. Yeah.
You
Whether
really
you're a
do.
dentist, a doctor, a real estate agent, a retail chain, it doesn't matter. You're right. Geographically targeting an audience is, because you think about it, whereas if I'm a YouTuber right now doing technology tutorials like I do, I'm competing against the entire world. And there's these young guys now who basically have copy and pasted my model. I've talked about this before. They can do 20 videos a day. They don't have kids. They can stay up whenever, and they can do all this.
Right.
For me, I have to figure out some more unique ways of doing it. So being able to be geographically kind of condensed into that area is really interesting. All right, so I know we kind of want to wrap things up, but I want to ask you that if there was one thing that you could leave the creators listening to this, just that one final point of, as we've been talking, maybe something's come to your mind of, man, we really need to touch on this. What would that thing be? You
do find the skills if you keep doing it. Like people I talk to that are getting started are always so worried about like they feel uncomfortable or they don't know the camera thing yet. Like, yeah, but if you like actually just focused on doing it consistently and focus on getting 1% better every time. Hey, could I just improve my call to action a little bit in this video? I'm not going to worry about improving my audio setup yet. Could I just improve my call to action? Next time we'll think about audio a little bit more. Like those incremental steps they lead to massive progress. They really do, if you keep doing them. And going back to the inputs. I mean, that's really what I want people to take away. Is, look at where I've gotten in 4 years. If you want that, then do that weekly input for 4 years.
Right. And it's not ever going to equate to exactly what Sam is getting or earning. It could be more, to be honest.
Yeah.
It could be more, it could be less, but I think it'll be a positive thing for you. And this is speaking for any YouTube channel, not just for real estate or realtors. It's putting in the inputs and being able to get through those tough times. So it's amazing. Again, Sam, this has been an amazing conversation. Again, I've been talking with Sam Cottle from the Living in Tampa, Florida YouTube channel. He's got a great thing going. I'll have all of his links down below. If you are interested in chatting with him, it doesn't have to be about real estate. You can just ask him a follow-up question.
Absolutely.
Knowing Sam like I have for just a little while that I've known him here, I'll say that I think he would respond to you if you're a creator looking and asking questions. So again, those links will be down below. Sam, we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Dusty.